6 minutes? Is this for real?
Well, of course. Well done, Wanda. Sweet Pepper's Deli. Yes, ma'am. Life is sweet.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 6.
Welcome into Mississippi Live Weather at 6. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. On this Tuesday evening, we are tracking active and severe weather chances for your Wednesday. And at this point here, confidence remains still questionable, which is the best news I can tell you. In saying that, we still think there are plenty of components in place that if tornadoes form, they could potentially become strong by your Wednesday evening. By strong, I mean potentially as strong as EF2, which might not sound high on a scale that goes from 0 to 5, but EF2 is the level where well-built structures start sustaining some damage of this. And again, the confidence remains somewhat limited because of the setup, and we'll talk more about that here in a minute. Spotty wind damage possible, less hail than what we had last night, and localized flooding also an impact out of this storm system here. So as we talk about our headlines at this point here, again, this is a high-impact, low confidence event for tomorrow, because while it's going to be kind of difficult to get one of these storms to produce a tornado, if it happens, it could potentially become strong. Stormfinder will help us to isolate the timing and locations we're concentrating to a certain extent on there. Our latest rotation tracks by our Futurecast continue depicting, based on our two models there, at least some that could be tornadoes here in the northern part of the state. Our tornado risk for tomorrow does involve all locations. The greatest confidence in development here from south of Senatobia to near Oxford, back toward around Pontotoc to Houston to Starkville, southward to between around Meshulaville, between Louisville and Macon. But here's our strong tornado risk. There's kind of three levels that go on our strong tornado risk. You could still have a chance for tornado like last night, where it's no kind of likelihood of it being strong. So if we were to show this graphic last night, it'd just be the gray. You wouldn't be seeing any colors on this. But everybody here under that potential to possibly see it up to EF2 in strength. So again, this is the confidence in occurring, greatest confidence, closer to the Delta, Grenada, back out toward Montgomery County and Kosciuszko. But if it occurs, I think all of us have potential that it could be a strong tornado. So that is, again, one of those things I want to keep in mind here. Our severe weather risk, everybody under that level 2 out of 5. And that comes down again to the number of reports. Not expecting to have a lot of reports of severe weather tomorrow. But again, low confidence, high impact. That's the important thing to keep in mind. So 78 at 7 p.m. tonight. We do have a few isolated thunderstorms. We'll look on Mama Justice Doppler radar at the one or two that we have in a moment. 71 by 10. We'll look 69 by 1 o'clock in the morning. Again, back into the upper 60s. That's as far as temperatures drop by early tomorrow morning. I mentioned a moment ago, again, Mama Justice Doppler radar. Bruce underneath one of these showers and storms there that's at least somewhat heavy. Not a ton of lightning on this. You can see 8 strikes, and in comparison to last night's all over the place lightning, that's obviously a huge drop off in comparison. But this one has really kind of strengthened about the last half hour to 45 minutes. The way in which we can kind of analyze this is you saw a lot last night as we look three-dimensionally on this here near Sarepta and Bruce along Highway 32, where it is the strongest. We don't have, again, some of those darkest returns as high, but again, this shows that it's not impossible to have really some pretty heavy rainfall, and as this collapses, they're moving toward Pinnell and eventually on a track that takes it toward Pontotoc, could potentially get it to kick out a couple of strong wind gusts. Go back to 2D mode here. Let's get the speed and motion on this. So I have it where it is now. I'm going to verify where we're at over the last hour. We'll make this a 1 hour loop. As you can see how it's gone from nothing to something over the course of the last hour, which is kind of what we expect out of sort of these weaker showers. We'll say about 35 to 40 miles per hour on that movement toward the northeast there. So again, toward the Pontotoc area, there's about, I'll say 40 miles per hour there. So we show into the Pontotoc area somewhere around 6:30, so about another 25 minutes or so for you. Randolph 6:11, so pretty much on top of you at the next 5 to 8 minutes or so. North Junction at 6:26 there. A lot of those neighborhoods in and around the Pontotoc area. Ecru, though, we're looking at 6:33. New Harmony, which is close to the Toyota plant, by about 6:42. Sherman at 6:45. This should probably stay below severe limits, but making its way in the northwest Lee County there, close to around the 7 o'clock time period, 6:45 to 7 p.m. As we clear that off of Mama Justice Doppler radar, one other little shower there that's kind of popped up closer to Takapola. This one already gone through a little bit of a collapsing phase. You can see just for the briefest moment where it had a little heavier precipitation with that. And this is, again, maybe moderate rainfall at most as it Bronza and up toward New Albany. We'll get track on this one. Not expected to be quite as heavy or strong. We show about 38 miles per hour there. So again, hurricane at about 6:11. We're looking at Rocky Ford there, 6:15. Ingomar by about 6:23. Getting there closer to New Albany at 6:30. And we're getting toward around, Cownville by 6:42. That's probably moderate rainfall. There'll be a few showers running ahead of that. Obviously, you already have that over top of the Ingomar area at this point in time. And outside of that, not a whole lot else that's kind of popped up there on Mama Justice Doppler radar. A couple sprinkles out into Arkansas. Pretty potent storm system approaching us here, producing severe weather, including a storm up here toward the Chicago area that is just dropping confirmed reports of hail in excess of 2 inches in size with this one. So it is pretty rough on some of these up here, closer to a warm front. I point this out because a warm front like this, we'll probably have one draped somewhat close to us, and it's actually right now the opposite. It's actually a cold front, but as it gets down here, it stalls briefly. How long it stalls will help determine how the shear is along that front, and thus how the severe weather chances play out. Because as that kind of swoops down, and the storm system back out here toward, you kind of see the L right there, back there toward Mexico, south El Paso, as that lifts toward us a little closer, I think it all converges in a way that brings severe weather chances for our area tomorrow. But for tonight, as you'll see here, still kind of ahead of everything as we bring it in closer to the Magnolia State. All the active and severe weather back out into Texas and Oklahoma tonight. Level 3 out of 5 severe weather risk there, and level 4 out of 5 up there close to Chicago. So as this line moves toward us, the most of those storms weakening as we head toward early tomorrow morning. I think we have a phase in the morning where they remain relatively weak, but as we head toward midday, storms start strengthening. And while they look weaker out here toward Pine Bluff and El Dorado, Arkansas, they're more likely to get in here as we head toward midday and afternoon, and I think possibly even into tomorrow evening. So you'll notice we keep that coverage of storms limited through around noontime, and then picks up a lot more. 3, 4, 5, 6 p.m. for tomorrow. Storms increasing in coverage, and some will be rotating. Not all will produce tornadoes. In fact, most will not. And it wouldn't at all shock me if we did not have tornado touchdowns tomorrow. But I also would equally not be shocked if we had a brief, strong tornado for tomorrow, where it does rate a little bit higher. So again, both those ends of what sound like opposite coins, a possibility here for your Wednesday. We're tracking that coming up here in 60 seconds from the Room to Room Weather Center as we're looking at rotation track. And right after the break, it is Stormfinder, which is looking ahead again at the probability of you seeing, and kind of helps out with the timing of these thunderstorms as Mississippi Live Weather continues here from the Room to Room Weather Center in 60 seconds.
After a storm, the damage is not always obvious. And if it's not documented correctly, it can cost you. With a decade of experience, we know exactly what to look for. We handle the inspection, claim support, and the roof. Storm season is coming. Make sure you have absolute restoration on your side.
The bravest thing that my dad has done has been going back to school.
It wasn't when he first enlisted, it was when he found his first support group.
The bravest thing she did is when she asked for help.
This portion of Mississippi Live Weather is presented by Little's Jewelers.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lobhon.
You're watching Mississippi Live Weather here at 6 p.m. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. Pontotoc, again, a lot less active than the tornado warning that we had come through there last night. Storms producing tons of rainfall to go along with big hail. Not a repeat performance in Pontotoc tonight, thankfully. 77 the temperature. We're expecting, again, moisture values to be pretty significant out there as storms expected to refire by tomorrow evening and produce the potential for some severe weather. A number of our cameras actually down this evening as we're kind of working to get them back up after the fact. Starkville, though, one of those spots where you see that mix of cloud cover, 81 degrees current temperature there. That measure of moisture, as you can see up there at around 68 degrees. You know, I could just actually point the right direction as opposed to try to guess above my head where it is. A lot of moisture, and as that helped to fuel some of the thunderstorms again last night, not impossible to get a few of those again this evening, but much, much more likely for tomorrow. And a camera there in Oxford, still locked up from when it had a power outage last night. Appreciate Phoenix Building Solutions. Hoping to get that one and some of the other cameras back up and going before it's all said and done. But they're out of Lafayette County and just east and southeast of Lafayette County into Calhoun County, where we do have a storm that has kind of popped up, producing some heavy rainfall, some lightning. You can see strikes, not over the top, only about 11 strikes. As I kind of pull down that track there, or that map that shows those moving there toward, again, Wallerville by about 6:48, Blue Springs 6:49, eventually Ellistown there at about the 6:55. But Randolph and locations on kind of the north side of Pontotoc. I think really all of Pontotoc included in that. Let me change the angle on that just a little bit to include Pontotoc. I really would like to see the actual name Pontotoc there show up in it. There we go. We show Pontotoc 6:30, which is about the time we mentioned a moment ago. And this producing some heavy rainfall. One of the concerns we do have over the next 24 hours is just, how much rainfall we could see. Briefly, this has where you see some of the greens there behind me depicted, possibly up around an inch of rainfall. But if we instead look over the course of, say, the last 48 hours, taking out what we had last night, you can see how those amounts were a lot more significant with some of those thunderstorms there back in Lafayette, Pontotoc, and even in the Lee counties depicted producing almost 3 inches of rainfall. That's important because we did have obviously some fairly significant flooding issues last night. Joining me here is our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor. That picture behind you, never a sign we want to see when we're mentioning flooding rainfall. Unfortunately, we did have one fatality at least from last night's storms, right, Gabe?
We did have a death that was over in Lee County, a child in the back of a vehicle as it went off the road due to those slick conditions into one of those river. I'm getting the exact location still behind the scenes, but nonetheless, it was a larger body of water due to the amount of rainfall, and unfortunately the child in the back seat did not make it. And so our thoughts and prayers are with those that were affected, but there is still a person missing, and that is the driver of the car, as they were not found in the vehicle once the search and rescue crews did get out there. And Lee County Coroner Carolyn Green letting us know that they are still searching for that body. They are getting some help over there from Monroe County with the Amory Fire Department Special Operations Unit and the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. So they're coming up there as well, navigating these waterways like you see behind me, and hopefully finding that body here soon, Matt. But we do not want deaths. We do not want folks to get out there in this amount of rainfall. And the reason why is because you can wreck, you can slide off the roadways, or you could end up in these large bodies of water, unfortunately, like what happened yesterday.
Hydroplaning, something that, we don't think about it. The quality of your tire makes a difference, the speed at which you're driving, and the ability for the roadway to shed water. All three of those things, if any one of those isn't excellent, you have issues. Appreciate that, Gabe. Unfortunately, sad news again coming from Lee and Monroe counties there with last night. Because I showed you the rainfall totals from last night. You look over the course of the last 7 days, some spots more than 4 inches or so. And when you add in another system that'll add 2 to 3 or more inches in some spots, the flooding issues we had last night could once again become an issue for tomorrow night. Not necessarily an outside chance, maybe not going to be the headline thing that we talk about, but a possibility. Here is Stormfinder, something you'll find only here on Mississippi Live. What this shows is this kind of aggregates on here. Lightning strikes, which you see, the greater number of the lightning strikes, more of a warmer sort of color. It has on it storm chances, the likelihood of seeing something. Again, we're going to be most concentrated where we have the highest confidence of storms forming. That's in the purple colors there. And then it also shows the radar, or at least future radar, from our strike model on bottom. This is Stormfinder, something you'll find only here on Mississippi Live. Clearly what you can see, where we've had some of the thunderstorms today, down south and up north, where that's showing up most specifically. I want to show you something here for a moment. I think this is kind of important to talk about our tornado threat for tomorrow. I'm going to actually go, wasn't planning on doing this, but I think it's worth showing this here for a second. Do you see how we have kind of a split area here? Greatest number of reports expected to be down here in Texas and Oklahoma, and greatest concentration of reports as well as impact up there toward the Midwest. The tornado risk, and in particular the moderate risk, is there for the potential for tornadoes up that direction, and also the potential that some spots up there could see strong tornadoes up there, as you can see EF3 in strength. So when we look at our risk area for this tomorrow over top of us here across the southeastern United States, we only have up to a level 2 out of 5 risk now. But we have some spots of this that are very, very wide, basically painting a pathway here to say somewhere in the middle, an upgraded level 3 or greater severe weather risk is possibly going to be necessary. The tornado risk, kind of the main thing that we are watching out of this for our area tomorrow, because while it's only level 2 out of 5, I know only being maybe not the best descriptive term for that there, we also find ourselves with that potential to possibly see a strong tornado, all locations under that there. So while confidence in a strong tornado remains limited, the potential higher end impact is the concern. And so on that wider shot we showed you a moment ago there on our Stormfinder, you saw how this doesn't show a ton of storms up north, right? Where we had that level 4 out of 5 risk. So keep that in mind, that this didn't show but a limited risk out here into Arkansas, yet it shows tons and tons of thunderstorms. So that's an important factor to keep in mind, that you can have lots of storms depicted on here and have a lesser impact, or you can have a more limited number of storms and have a greater impact, which will probably be our situation for tomorrow. This is Stormfinder. So as we walk through this evening, this does show some thunderstorms, again, trying to move in from Arkansas. Of course, we have the thunderstorms that are popped up this evening, not a ton of lightning with those, and the majority of that activity staying to the north of us. As we go into your Wednesday, you notice here by noontime, not nearly the number of lightning strikes on these thunderstorms versus what's been depicted out west. Lightning is a function of the amount of ice that is going on up there in the clouds to a certain extent. And you can see how the likelihood is when you're farther back north and west on this, that this secondary line has a lot more ice and a lot greater chance to produce a lot of lightning back that direction there. And certainly our strike model is stronger with storms that direction. But these more limited and isolated storms farther east, while the storm chances, again, somewhat more limited than back to the west, these producing some lightning, these could be in a zone where some have some rotation. That one I see there near Oxford around 6 p.m. tomorrow, closer to our warm front, one that is concerning to me, as there kind of gets this wave that moves in and perhaps additional thunderstorms that develop into the evening. So Stormfinder showing us that our greatest chance to see some thunderstorms afternoon and then possibly early evening before that threat shifts down south into central Mississippi and South Mississippi, where they're going to do a great job producing a lot of thunderstorms, hopefully not as great a threat for one of those to produce a tornado that is strong. As you can see, those storm chances continuing to go with that into your Thursday to our south and east. So tomorrow, let's walk hour by hour through this. 67 in the morning, 77 by noon, 80 by around 3 p.m., thunderstorms likely developing on a fairly widespread scale in the afternoon and evening, and a rotating thunderstorm or two, absolutely, I'd say likely, but will it be producing a tornado? Will it finally get up just enough to do that? That remains a question. Let's look at Futurecast. Again, for tonight, a couple isolated thunderstorms. It has not done a great job depicting those few storms that we were tracking a moment ago there for Calhoun and Pontotoc County. So kind of underdoing some of the storm chances just a little bit. We're looking at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning there. Not much activity. But what I notice here at 6 a.m., see here Greenville back toward Grenada and Oxford. See that? What are not impressive storms? How it already depicts a few of those trying to pop up there. That's something that our latest RRR model, HRRR model, does not have depicted on it in its long-range run, a sign that storms will probably be more plentiful than what we're going to show you here in a moment. So 65 there, Water Valley, Oxford, and Bruce for your Wednesday to begin the day. We're going to be 67 Greenwood, typically should be 43. And so obviously way above that with lots of moisture in place. So looking at Futurecast here, again, pretty limited on the overall coverage on Futurecast as of 9 a.m., probably underdoing things just a little bit as storms get more plentiful by around noontime, mainly out into Arkansas. as our front approaches the area and thunderstorms get going, we have a zone here stretching from near Corinth back to Oxford and Water Valley, where there's kind of a boundary. I could argue that this is kind of our warm frontal boundary. I think the front that we're depicting on here kind of gives a good idea of an area to look, but we have to get within a little deeper here on our model to show exactly kind of where that main area of focus is. And if a storm can attach to this boundary, it's more likely to rotate and try to produce a tornado. And if that can happen, it's possible it could be a strong tornado. Certainly some really heavy ones in that corridor here, stretching at this point depicted from near Greenville back toward around Grenada, Water Valley, toward around Pontotoc, Tupelo, and Boonville. So in this zone here out toward Iuka as well. We have most of our projections predicting at least one thunderstorm, showing a decent amount of rotation. 5, 6 o'clock for tomorrow evening as this front kind of moves in, additional storm development possible. So let's look here again at Futurecast, and we're looking at this on our HRRR model, kind of starting there early and continuing to show those thunderstorms developing into the early evening. The question is whether or not some of these behind that initial wave, if this doesn't really kick out a ton of cold air, and this initial wave does not fully materialize, there's going to be more fuel out here for these thunderstorms to work off of, and a greater chance that this secondary batch here could have one of these storms that's a little bit stronger. This particular version of Futurecast, somewhat underwhelmed on that potential, and hopefully that is a reality of how this plays out there into your Thursday evening. So storm rotation, again, looking at our HRRR model here, we're picking this up kind of Wednesday in the afternoon. For example, plenty of rotation back out into Texas, some up there in the Midwest, and we're kind of in this zone in between where do we get discrete individual thunderstorms that kind of develop here. We show one near Shelby, and we were tracking this a moment ago there, where that kind of holds together hour to hour and has some extra rotation with it. But we also show a few of these trying to develop up here, New Albany, Ripley, back toward Corinth. And again, this is just a generalized area. I would still say as far north as, say, Byhalia, and as far south as maybe Okolone and Smithville, there's probably going to be a corridor somewhere in here where there's just an extra little enhancement to try to get one of these thunderstorms to rotate a little longer. You can see where they connect hour to hour, which is what we're depicting there on this. That's where that rotation ends up being somewhat stronger. Hence the reason, if everything goes just right, that could end up becoming a tornado and possibly a strong tornado. Now listen, what rotation track shows is a spinning thunderstorm. You can get spinning thunderstorms that never get that circulation down to the surface, and that would be our hope in this scenario here. But certainly that depicts not a lot of areas where we could have tornadoes, but a possibility that maybe there's that one that rotates in a strong enough way that you end up getting a strong tornado. I'm going to step to this side here for a moment to show kind of that secondary batch there that does have still some rotation. Cleveland back toward Water Valley, 6, 7, 8 o'clock into the evening. Does not do as effective job of really getting that rotation to move in that same kind of southwest and northeast direction. And it's we got attached to a boundary, kind of that warm front we were talking about. That's where it's more likely to see one of those storms at that point that is strong to severe and rotates and try tornado. So that what you saw there in that secondary batch ends up playing out. Unfortunately, as you can see here, though, that batch of storms has some that are fairly strong rotating once it gets down into central Mississippi. Now, this is our strike model, also looking at rotation track. It tends to be a little more conservative on its what we call helicity swaths, would be the behind the scenes name, or a rotation track as we depict it here. You'll see through midday Wednesday, those thunderstorms, a little more rotation back out into Arkansas with this. As we head, say, 1, 2 o'clock, we're not that far removed from up there in Tennessee where those tracks are a little bit stronger up there. And I'll point this one out for Bolivar, Tennessee, up there just to the north. You know, that just as easily, while we show it Collierville up there toward Bolivar, could be just a county south. And obviously that would be a much bigger deal for Holly Springs or Ashland or up there closer to Walnut for your Wednesday afternoon there. But we do have additional thunderstorms south of that developing, and these are going to have some rotation with them as well. Notice it's not quite as strong. One of the signs that perhaps this doesn't deepen enough to, we might have these strong, small spinning cells, but there's a size. Size is important. You need them to get big enough to where they can get that rotation to really, really translate. Not 100% sure that will be the case with these there, but certainly have that one rotating there closer to New Albany, say by around 5 to 6 p.m. there. and then a few more out there closer to, again, that's what I call that secondary round, perhaps, out there around Clarksdale as we head toward around 6 to 7. Now, notice here, it is in that really 6 to 7:30 time period that a few more of these have some rotation with it, kind of that secondary batch we were watching. This particular version, our strike model, does not have as many early storms far south, and so the atmosphere is not worked over, and thus we get some more rotation out of these, like that one we have there closer to Charleston, and a few others up here closer to, say, Blue Mountain and Dumas there. So possibility that maybe get a couple of these that are a little bit stronger in that time period. We will see whether or not that can kind of hold true. Hopefully not. And then as we go closer to midnight and thereafter, the threat of that kind of shifts out of here. So let's walk hour by hour through your Wednesday there. We're 67 at 7 a.m., 77 by noontime, and 76 degrees at 5 p.m. Again, storm chances increasing in the afternoon and certainly into the evening, with some question of how strong they will be, how late into the evening. And that comes down to, if we have more afternoon storms, that limits the fuel, contaminates the atmosphere, and hopefully taints the environment for the tornado potential there. So that would be our hope and our prayer in this situation. We're 60, as you can see, Thursday, much cooler, much drier behind this. 69 as we look toward Friday. And yeah, a morning there, as you can see, into the 30s. So going to have some frost early Friday morning. We're 44 by Saturday, 77 by Saturday afternoon, and then upper 70s on Sunday, with temperatures near the 80-degree point, maybe a few thunderstorms there as well. Unlikely to be as strong as what we'll have for tomorrow. And then we are cooler and considerably drier, back below normal for more than a few days as we look toward the first part of next week. Okay, coming up in 60 seconds, we're back to Mama Justice Doppler radar, tracking some of the showers and thunderstorms out there. We're also answering some of your questions related to severe weather chances for tomorrow. That's as Mississippi Live Weather continues here in 60 seconds. Before we go, I cannot stress this enough. A personalized tornado warning system is important. Weather call is that. A phone call might sound antiquated, but when this thing rings, people pay attention. It calls you for tornado warnings, for severe thunderstorm warnings, and for major flash flooding, like the flash flood emergencies they had last year back out in Texas. More as we answer your questions in 60 seconds on Mississippi Live Weather at 6.
It's Friday night y estamos activos. Head out early. Drinks flowing to level.
No sé qué pasó. I didn't even drink that much.
You're watching Mississippi Live Weather at 6. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon, joined alongside of our meteorologist Gabe Maynor here as we are looking at some thunderstorms there in locations in the Midwest. You know, one of the things I notice about this, Gabe, is that obviously these storms remain strong, some rotation depicted on them as well. We'll bring Gabe in here for a moment. Yeah, you've been kind of monitoring what chatter has been around behind the scenes on this. What are you hearing?
So a touchdown confirmed in Pontiac, Illinois earlier on this evening. That was this actual initial cell whenever it was further towards the south and west. It basically lifted pretty quickly and then destabilized once again, moving more towards Kankakee, Illinois. I believe I'm saying that correctly. But nonetheless, what we're getting now is large hailstones. I want to show some of these hail reports, Matt, real quick, because I've seen pictures of it. And if this is what I have, I mean, we're talking, let's see, can we put it on the latest scan real quick? So that's 2 inches. I want to get the ones earlier on, 3.5. There was about a 4 or 5 incher earlier on once it moved out of Pontiac. So that's where we're getting some of those reports and showing that this is a mature storm. And as of right now, you do see that that is a confirmed tornado moving through eastern Illinois. And it is now a PDS tornado as it's moving there on the eastern side of the state. And this is a very strong tornado. Folks need to get to shelter. And if you do know anyone that is in northern Indiana, still in that area where we're expecting to see those strong tornadoes come out of and starting to get more verification of that, over there towards Kankakee. So, Matt, this is not a pretty sight when we're talking about strong and severe and tornadic storms. So hopefully everyone is preparing and staying safe in those areas.
Again, lots of big hail there as well. We might touch more on that here in a minute. I do want to come back here.
I am working to get pictures and video from there behind the scenes.
Okay, I appreciate that. Let me know here in a minute when you go ahead and get some of those. It's our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, there, again, reporting here behind the scenes. And as I slide back south, we do have some thunderstorms here in North Mississippi, none that are as strong as what they have up there, but we have been watching these back here toward Algoma and Ecru. Again, moderate to heavy rainfall out of the strongest of this here as we bring back into kind of our regular reflectivity mode on Mama Justice Doppler radar. Put this on to a 1 hour loop here. Again, kind of tracking toward Algoma and Pontotoc and up here, generally kind of toward the Tupelo area as well, though this has weakened a little bit in the last few minutes. We'll get kind of a storm track on this, moving a little bit more east, about 40-ish miles per hour. But again, this is kind of falling apart a little bit, so hopefully that's a trend that continues. Again, some lightning with this relative to what you have up there north. Obviously, this is a lot weaker, but no big complaints, I think about that. So hopefully that is something that continues there. Again, our camera there on the south side of Pontotoc this evening, as I'll kind of pop that up there. And again, discussion kind of going on behind the screens here. And we'll talk about a good look up there toward Illinois again here in a second. But there's just kind of the rainfall moving into Pontotoc, but it's just rainfall. Nothing too particularly scary on that camera behind. It does look like that reporting station there in Pontotoc has decided to take a moment or two off. You know, you again have been asking questions again behind the scenes here, and we appreciate everybody for joining us on our live stream there. Watching in Corinth and from Aberdeen, other locations there. Apparently Pontotoc as well. One of these days, I promise, Garrett, one of these days I'll learn Gulf of America. Today's just not that day, but we'll get there eventually. At some point, it will make it the most important thing on my brain. It just hasn't yet. So a little dark behind your house there in Pontotoc, but again, it is sub-severe with that. Well, I'm going to leave. I'm going to keep your comments up. We're going to answer some of your questions related to this in a second. We're going to go to the live stream from the North Mississippi Storm Chasers, actually up there in the Illinois area on that storm with our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, who is kind of tracking that as well. And Gabe, again, I can see that stream back there as they are trying to kind of get in position, right?
Yeah, and spotty service, so it's going to be in and out, but this is the North Mississippi Storm Chasers, Adrian and Timothy up there that are assessing this storm there in Illinois, and I believe that's the view of the tornado-producing storm over there towards the eastern Illinois area. I'm trying to get a good visual on that, and that does look like where the lowering is taking place. I mean, you can see where they're positioned. I mean, they're pretty much right in the heart of that storm, not too far away from it, and yeah, you're getting, oof. I'm trying to see past this tree line if it's reaching all the way there to the ground. But yeah, feed is going to be in and out, unfortunately, but you're definitely getting a visual of where the strongest tornadoes are expected.
That looks like that's what that is there, if that comes back here in a second. That's
okay, so it's
cloud
not
right there above the house.
Let it update here. It's updating behind the scenes. There we go. It doesn't look like it's all the way on the surface right now. But nonetheless, it was touched down just a moment ago. And
again, you're looking at live feed here from the North Mississippi Storm Chasers there in Illinois. This is not in Mississippi. This is Illinois. I just want to be clear there about what we're looking at. That's Adrian Roncahone and Timothy Kern there with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers up there in Illinois, tracking what has been a large and strong tornado that's been on the ground there in the last few minutes.
Look at that radar image. You can definitely see where that's trying to wrap around.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it's trying very hard. We'll kind of keep an eye behind that, behind the scenes. But I know we've kind of given folks an opportunity to voice their questions. So we'll pop that back up here in a moment with someone actually. Looks like just everyone kind of talking about the fact they're watching. We appreciate you all for watching on Facebook, on YouTube, and supporting us here on Mississippi Live Weather. But luckily, not that kind of weather down here. We're hopeful we don't have strong sort of tornadoes tomorrow as we bring it back to Mama Justice Doppler radar to kind of give you the perspective. And this is, I think, an important kind of case in point thing to discuss related to this, which is when we look at kind of the national perspective on this and you look at the severe weather up here. Notice how this is not, I'll pull off the storm reports for a second. This is not a ton of thunderstorms. This is a concentrated area of fairly limited number of thunderstorms, but kind of a concentrated area where we see those storms kind of popping up. That's what it looks like when we have one of these severe risk areas. We show the level 1 risk, and it's kind of a level 4, where you could have a large number of reports out of a smaller number of storms. And that's been the case again so far this evening. The tornado risk, as we talked about up there, potential not just for tornadoes, but also some strong tornadoes in that zone. And so right near the center of the bullseye. So that's important when you look at what we're talking about for tomorrow, where by tomorrow that threat shifts eastward. But for us, while it's a more limited threat, again, they had level 4 threat up there into Illinois. We're down on a level 2 threat. For us tomorrow, you look at the significant potential for a strong tornado, and that's more aligned toward the area. You can kind of see the center of that threat, probably a little back to the south and west, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the center of the threat where it's most significant. You look at that strong tornado threat, and it's a one isolated location up here farther north where that's the case. So as I bring this back over to our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, who's kind of tracking what's going on up there in Illinois at this time. Again, Gabe, kind of looking at those shots there, still trying to kind of jockey for position.
Yeah, again, it's just not a look you want to see when we're talking about these potential strong tornadoes. And again, re-emphasizing this is up in Illinois, not here in North Mississippi. We're not expecting anything like this today, just those few showers like you were tracking a moment ago. But I mean, there you're getting a look at that beast of a storm up there on the eastern side of the state. That's where our North Mississippi storm chaser Adrian Roncajon and storm chaser Timothy Kern, they are up there assessing this. I do like to see those folks driving away from the storm, staying out of all that trouble, but I do hope that they're staying safe up there because that does look like an intense storm, and probably if it's not producing, we're moments away from it producing. So saying a prayer for folks. They're working to get some footage behind the scenes. I did see some video over in Pontiac, Illinois of a brief tornado touchdown and some power flashes as well. We are working for permission on that, but nonetheless, we do have confirmation that it did at least touch down earlier on. This same storm is actually what's producing this warning right now as it continues to move up there towards the eastern side of Illinois. So paying attention to that, and our storm chasers, they do know what they're doing. They're smart individuals, so I hope that they do stay safe up there in Illinois as well. I do want to make a note here real quick. I do have damage, and that's what I was working to get up behind the scenes, is the damage out of Texas. That was of a brief touchdown south of the Abilene area, closer to, I believe it's Tuscola, and I did get permission for a few of those damage photos of a brief, not exactly a major tornado or a strong tornado, but it was still a brief tornado touchdown and some of the damage attached to it, and a decent wall cloud as well. So folks up there in Illinois having an active afternoon and evening. That's our area that we're expecting the strongest tornadoes to be today. But even down in Texas, not impossible to see a few of those brief tornadoes as well. As we head into tomorrow, I do see down there in the chat that they're asking what time will the event begin tomorrow. Primarily going to be the afternoon and evening. And while we're not expecting, while there is still some questions with the forecast for our Wednesday, strong tornadoes are not impossible. That's going to be that EF2+, and that's why we are in that new area that the SPC has put out. That's kind of the hatched area that we're watching. And so it's not impossible to get some of these stronger tornadoes. So that's what we're looking at. But for today, that threat does remain up there towards Illinois. So, and as you can see, it's actually an even more elevated threat, that SIG-2 threat that the SPC has started as of a couple weeks ago, Matt.
And so, there are different levels. The idea being here that, we're going to try not to go too jargony on this because that's, I think, one of the concerns that all meteorologists have on this, that, it's just another layer of complexity. The idea on this is that there's kind of two ways to look at the tornado risk. You have the probability of something happening, the likelihood of it happening, right? Most likely in the middle of a bullseye. But then you have the probability of this, which is something significant happening, and that can not necessarily always align. You can sometimes get something very, very strong that's a less likely thing to happen. And maybe there's a better basketball reference in this, but I just, thought about, the full court shot. You hit that, it's a big deal if you're down 2 points. Just the odds of you hitting it are very low.
That's fair.
Right? That's kind of what this is. So the odds, especially you get out here toward, say, that little corner there of Ohio, right? For example, you look at the tornado risk that they have out there, and that's a level 3 risk at that spot there, versus the fact that you're looking at that possibility that you could also have as strong a tornado as we have out here where it's a level 4 risk. So sometimes those things aren't perfectly aligned, and we owe a lot of that to the fact that sometimes you can have something that's lower confidence but higher impact, and that's obviously where it is here.
So
just to double check, where exactly the storm chasers? Which of those storms? The storm chasers are on the one we were zoomed in on, right? The one.
Yes, the Kankakee one. I'm probably butchering that name, but that's where. And turn on reports real quick and see, because I saw that we did get a new storm report come in there closer to that area of the tornado.
Yes, so that would be the tornado right there.
Yes, so that was that touchdown that we were talking about just a moment ago. And I've been watching the stream. I don't know if I have confirmation that, well, there's damage. Yep, there's damage right there on your screen. They're going to have to turn around because a tree is down, knocking down one of those power lines. And you can see kind of the debris there on the back of the cars. And so that was definitely where that touchdown, and even on the roof right there. So, yeah, that's where the tornado moved through earlier on. I'm waiting to see if there's any more damage coming out of that. I can see folks trying to kind of navigate the back roads there in Illinois, but saying a prayer for all those towns that are being affected, and hopeful that this does lift here pretty soon if it hasn't already.
Absolutely. Confirmed tornado. Never want to see that out of this, but that's what they have up there in parts of Illinois. Appreciate that to our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, kind of reporting, and the folks from the North Mississippi Storm Chasers. I guess that's probably the sun coming under the clouds as they're kind of.
So that's looking away from the storm. And so there's more action that's happening out there towards western Illinois too. So they're probably going to see multiple rounds of these cells trying to move through that same general area, unfortunately.
Yeah, so it's our thoughts and prayers again with folks that are up there this evening. Appreciate that, Gabe. Let's bring it back in here to our chat, trying to answer some of your questions there as well. For us, it could happen tomorrow. Yes, possibility there again. Shimbrara Harris. So what's the risk of a tornado for tomorrow in the Corinth area? Listen, I get not particularly confident we're going to have a lot of tornadoes here, but Corinth is, again, like many other spots where if you can get one of these to attach to that boundary we were talking about, that's when we're most likely to see some damage associated with that. So certainly a possibility that we're watching there. So certainly we're going to have to be very, very careful with that. But I'd say some damaging winds and possibly a tornado possibility for you tomorrow as well. Kankakee is what Ken says. And considering Ken's name starts with 2 Ks, I think we can go with that. Kankakee. Kankakee. Let's see here. Boonville or altitude supposed to have bad weather tonight. There are going to be some thunderstorms out there. I don't know if I really necessarily say bad weather per se. We'll bring it back in here to North Mississippi. We have one storm that we've been watching. Relatively weak, all things considered, and it has weakened a bit more over the last little bit. One thing that I always find interesting, I'll bring Gabe in here on this as well. This is not a discussion that we, have had beforehand or really had before. One thing I always find interesting, when we have a fairly decent severe weather chance, usually the day before there's some kind of cells that are a little surprising. Like this one here, for example, has a little bit of a rotational supercell sort of look to it. I wonder if our Tupelo camera has a shot of that back toward the west. Pontotoc probably a little too close, but this might be a pretty good visual there. Unfortunately, looking through quite a bit of gray.
Yeah.
But one thing I've always found fascinating is that we can sometimes get some storms that just overperform a little bit the day before a severe weather event. So yeah, Tupelo, it might be a little too close. Might even have to go farther out than Tupelo.
Tupelo shows there's enough instability out there. I mean, there's mid to upper 60s dew points. So it shows that there is still that moisture. And so, usually after a severe weather event, we do have to rebuild that moisture. I think that's a unique setup that we have right now, is the fact that none of that moisture left with yesterday's threat. That was more of a little shortwave that moved through, not an actual full-blown system. Tomorrow is that system that kind of moves that moisture on out, but that's why today isn't a rebuilding day. It's basically a maintaining day as we work our way into tomorrow's threat.
Mm-hmm. And we, one of the things that's different with this versus what it looked like this could have been, say, a week ago, is the upper level winds. They're there, but I would not call this a slam dunk in the upper levels. I'm trying to look from the Maven camera back at this, and I don't have a great shot. You put Adrian's shot back behind you. Go and keep that up just in case they catch something.
Well, I was going to show you. I actually do have photos out of Texas of some of the damage of a brief tornado touchdown, if we want to see that.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead and pull that up there. Well, I want to find one of these cameras where I have a better shot.
Okay, so This is Alexis submitting this photo to Mississippi Live Weather. And this was actually a photo of the wall cloud that was moving through just south of Abilene. I believe it's Tuscola there. And they've had a few instances of a brief tornado touchdown and then lifting almost immediately after. And while the damage isn't significant, it's still damage. And so that's what they were getting out there. You can see here with the swing set knocked over and some of the fencing knocked over as well. That is some of the tin being blown off of some of those buildings and the trampoline as well being blown into those vehicles. So you can kind of get a visual on what's taking place. And while these aren't exactly the strong tornadoes that they're receiving up north, it can still be impactful. And so we're praying for everyone out there. This was definitely on the lower end of the scale, but it's still impactful and still a scary sight for those out in Texas that are still dealing with it as of right now at what? I haven't changed the clock back, 6:45. So
I fixed the clock.
You changed the clock. Matt.
Occasionally I come into work and do something.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Help bring our check back.
Okay, let's also, do still have Adrian's stream.
Oh, okay. We'll go back to that in a second. I was gonna show a couple cameras here, and then we'll show Adrian's stream here in just a moment. So again, this is the camera up here from the Smithville area, looking farther away than Tupelo. This is going to be the same shot as what we had in Tupelo. I'm going to go back and forth between these a couple of times. Got to find it kind of interesting there. So wider shot, again, looking toward what's largely a glaciated storm. See how fuzzy this is kind of on looking at that storm up there. We do have, again, this is the inflow into it. So I have pretty good inflow. I see someone mentioning Beaver's Tail in the chat there. But, so this is kind of the inflow into that storm that has a little bit of, I think, rotation with it. But it's certainly falling apart, kind of looking at that shot there. Let's go back again to Smithville again for the wider shot. So you have kind of the zoomed in look from Tupelo back toward Pontotoc County. And then this also looking back toward Pontotoc County, a little more of a glow there. Can't quite see that inflow as effective. But just kind of mix of clouds there in the foreground as well on that shot there. Gets the sun directly behind that one cloud right there. So we'll clear all those out and back on Mama Justice Doppler radar, and then we're going to again go back up north. Yeah, see, this has maybe just the briefest little bit of rotation. But when I say that, I want to be clear. This is from an, oh, that's interesting angle, not a, oh, I'm concerned angle. So let's be clear on that. I'm not concerned about that. I'm going to click off all those alerts there at the top. So this is moderate rainfall, really at most Algoma. Kind of moving here toward, hey, might maybe make it up here to South Tillow, closer to my house. So get track on that. Again, about 30, 35 miles per hour. And I might even be going a little fast on that. In fact, I think I am. I feel like that's lost some speed. That definitely has lost some speed. Yes, that's down to 25 miles per hour if I track the back end of that there. Yeah, that's lost a lot of speed. Boy, those tracks I had earlier then with that as it slowed down has been pretty awful. Boy, I'm not proud of that. Okay, so we show, again, Belden about 709 there. Flowerdale, kind of west part of Tupelo, about 712. That's where most of these times are. These kind of different neighborhoods in and around the Tupelo area, kind of all impacted by this. Somewhere on the north side of town in particular, around 7 to 15 or so, a little before 7:15. So that's it. Outside of that, nothing else of great concern out there at this point in time. All the storm reports from last night's thunderstorms and the big hail that we had. Okay, let's go back to Gabe here for a second, because again, did have, that is a whole thing. What's that?
A lot of damage being reported out of Illinois tonight. This from our North Mississippi Storm Chasers, and this is from Timothy that's out there with Adrian, kind of watching these storms as they happen. And as you can see, a lot of the damage that's showing up, those snap trees, and unfortunately, it looks like some homes are mixed in there as well. Just a couple of photos that they've sent over, and I mean, yeah, that looks like a home right there in the distance, and there's a whole lot of snap trees due to that strong thunderstorm and strong tornadic storm that moved through just a few moments ago. Now, I do want to say that we do have video over there, and I think this is from Timothy as well. I'll let it play while I look at this just to make sure who sent it in. It is Timothy. And this is as they're kind of out there chasing, and as you can see, I'm going to fast forward it a little bit. You, of course, get that wall cloud right there, and you get that, I'm going to wait for the clearing. I know it's coming up because I just watched it. There you go. I mean, you can, oh, it's not showing the whole thing. Just realize that. There you go. So we're kind of watching that area right there on the right side of your screen for that dip beginning to happen and that tornadic development. And so we can kind of see that over time. And this is going to be a longer video, but I feel like it does show a lot of those features. And watch as we get closer to this intersection. And this is where we can see a little bit of that that funnel down there at the base, and we did also get a little bit of those power flashes. So I'm going to work to move this forward. It looks like it could be a few vortices that are actually trying to form. So let's get it right. Okay, we're almost there. So it's going to be right here. They're going to zoom it in, and I'll make sure that you guys have a visual on this. Advance it a little bit more. Okay, it should be right after this. And again, we're looking on the right side of your screen right there, and that's where we'll see some of those power flashes start to take place. Yeah, right after here, once they get to the end of the intersection. And they're going to zoom it in a little bit. Right there. And pay attention to the center of your screen. And we're going to start to see a visual on some of those power flashes. And that is actually where the tornado is. It is rain wrapped a good bit right here. And
that's a big one right there. The issue is you're looking, that whole chunk there, is it from, if you pause that
right
for a
there.
second.
Well, did you see that power flash?
Wait, that's part of it, but that's not the whole thing. Go back to where that shot is. Pause it there.
Oh yeah, I can see
that tree line there, right there. Go well to the right of that.
Right there. Yeah, right there.
I was gonna say the right of your mouse, right there, and then the right of your mouse.
Like that?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
you're right.
That's pretty good, because I can see where it cuts around there as well. So that's a pretty good size one.
And watch there on the left side of your screen. You're going to see that, yeah, that power flash right there in the distance. Yep. So that was the tornado on the ground, and that's where they're getting that damage out of those damage pictures.
This is Illinois. This is not us in Mississippi. Let's be clear. This is Illinois.
Yeah, you're still getting it. I mean, that's wow.
Thank God. That's prayers for those folks up there.
For sure. And do stay safe, Adrian and Timothy, because this is what we can expect up there. And as that's continuing to be on the ground as of the latest scan, are they keeping it up?
They have advanced with severe thunderstorm warnings all around it, so I don't know that it is continued at this point.
Well, let's hope that's on the downtrend.
I'll say that, again, this is not the highest resolution. It just might be waiting on it. They still have it as confirmed on the latest description. I would.
And this is not the highest resolution. This is our national radar. That's still as defined of a hook as I've ever seen on this type of radar.
We don't. This does okay for that. Give me a moment here. I'm going to pull up a radar from up there that will kind of show behind the scenes. We'll have different radars here for a second. So give me a moment to change mine to that. And I would still say, looking at that place marker here. Boy, that's not a small location either. That Kankakee is a pretty good size place. Looking at that,
we've already seen a few of those residences that were hit. So, hoping there's no injuries or fatalities out of that.
Supposed to be on the outskirts of that, and I don't show. We've had some tornado debris on it. I don't know that still has some way up there. Again, this is up in Illinois. This is not something in our area here. Do not necessarily show tornado debris on that at the moment.
I'm worried it's recycling.
Oh yeah, it's far from done, unfortunately for them. So,
and there's anyway, nothing underneath it eating at any of that unstable air. So this has a direct cycle of that inflow.
But one of the things that's interesting when you start talking about there on up in the northern plains is I'd be interested if we look at just kind of behind you there, the dew point. You'll notice how that dew point there is substantially lower. That leads to kind of a higher base thunderstorm. They're lower to middle 60s dew points, but you can see how they're on that big contrast there. It's that big contrast, that front you have. I mean, where you go from upper 60s to Chicago right now is in the 30s.
Wow.
So you get the storm and it gets right on the boundary, right? And if they get right on the boundary, that's when, they attach that boundary and there's extra shear with that. And so it might be feeding the moisture in from the warm side of the boundary and kind of wrapping around. So all of that to say, that's a much more extreme version of our concern for tomorrow is to get storms to kind of attach to that boundary. Sometimes you get just the right kind of shear. In the case of this one, just kind of tracking right along that up there. Again, this is not our area. This is Illinois that we're looking at on this. The reason we're just looking at this, it's the same kind of system moving through here. And we're a 24/7 Weather Channel, and hopefully you don't miss the fact that, we could be showing you some rendered maps at the moment here, which we think is valuable, but we also think this is valuable too, to give us kind of an idea of some of the storms. Also, notice right there, when this starts producing a tornado, there was some kind of a boundary, some kind of showers right there.
Oh, sure enough.
Let me pull this in. So let's stop this. So you'll see this puts down the tornado, right? But there's this boundary right there that you just start to see there. This hits some kind of a boundary, some kind of a wave lifting into this there, and that's when it really wraps up and produces the tornado that it has most recently produced, still potentially on the ground and causing damage in the whole 9 yards. So yeah, whatever that boundary is, you can see it kind of lifting through there. That's sometimes when you get just the right kind of shear, the right kind of waves to cause some issues there. So they're continuing that again with a tornado.
They're staying confirmed, I would assume.
Yeah, confirmed on it. Large and extremely dangerous tornado. Kind of looking at this, while again, this is one of those nerd things we start talking about. Well, I'm not sure if I'm seeing a ton of debris on it. Part of the reason you don't see debris on something this is because you'll notice this is primarily fields when you get up here. They don't have a lot of trees. Our trees help us to have more debris and make our tornadoes a little more sensible than they are up that direction there. So that's another one. Now I'm gonna have to check on this here in a second. Did you see that picture from Ashton a second ago?
I have not been able to see
Ashton went ahead and texted you. See if you can pull that one up for a moment. Some pictures there from the Kansas City area. Ooh. I mentioned that because I need to go look at Kansas City because my parents live in the Kansas City area. Make sure they haven't gotten too knocked over, because if I'm not gonna lie, did not do a very good job of talking to them about storms today, but they do a pretty good job of watching the weather. Ooh, that's close-ish. My parents live a little bit south of that batch there, but that's some pretty good size hail back for those locations. Again, are the same storm system, prompting a tornado warning back in the Oklahoma City area, pretty much right there over Oklahoma City. Again, another one of those pretty impressive storms. And then south of Abilene. Fun fact, Mr. Maynor, my first opportunity to be a chief meteorologist was in Abilene, Texas.
Well, we're glad you didn't take it, I guess.
Yeah, I took my second chance, which was in Lubbock, Texas, but before we moved here. But had a chance there in Abilene, Texas. I just met a girl, and I definitely boogered that job interview.
And it was
because I'd met this girl. Thank God I ended up marrying her. But anyway, that's your nugget of the day. I'm gonna look at the Oklahoma City storm there.
Well, hang on real quick. I do have that hailstone, and that's massive. And again, this
Where'd that come from?
So that was Kansas City. This was sent to us from storm chaser Ashton Lemley over there in Kansas City. It was one of his coworkers sent him this. I mean, that's full palm. That's easily 3.5 inch hail, probably. I mean, if that's my hand, it's probably about that size. So that's a massive hailstone, and that's how mature these storms are.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, understand.
That is no good.
Yeah.
So I don't know that they have confirmed one on this storm back here in Oklahoma. Hopefully not.
Which we have also gotten hail reports. I'm working to get permission to use these pictures. I don't want to use anything that we're not allowed to use. But I do at least have my eyes on pictures that were showing 4 to potentially 5 inch hailstones up there towards Illinois. And I believe that is close to the state record, if I'm not mistaken by that.
But I would hope that it doesn't go much bigger than that.
I hope. Oh, my word.
So anyway, let's pop up the questions here. I'll go to you so you can look at those here for a moment.
Okay. Well, yeah, 3.5 to 4 inch hail. Are you talking about the Kansas City one? News 9 and OKC? Yes, probably. This is an emergency situation for sure. I mean, this is not exactly a situation that you want to be in whenever we're talking about the.
And that's the Chicago National Weather Service there when they say KLOT. That's what
okay. So yeah, that's this storm
Chicago.
over there towards Kankakee. Illinois. And so as that's moving, well, this is the Oklahoma City storm. So that's, yes, we're spread out in the storms today. I mean, we're talking Texas, Illinois, and down there towards Oklahoma City and Kansas City. Okay, they're not tornado warned, but nonetheless, it's not impossible that we do get some of those warnings to be issued. I mean, we're looking at multiple areas of rotation. So, you know, our North Mississippi storm chasers over there in eastern Illinois, they just have to go a shade north, and they're probably looking at this one towards Kewanee, Illinois, that's produced as well. And all of these have rotation attached to them, as Matt was talking about a moment ago, kind of attaching to that boundary where that front is located. So we do expect this to be an active night for folks over there towards Illinois, specifically Chicago right now. I mean, we're looking just south of a very populated area. But this one back here, wouldn't be shocked if that does kind of take a direct path over there towards Chicago Metro. So hopeful that's not the case, but nonetheless, you can kind of see how active this pattern is, as there are dozens of warnings in place right now. So that one, I'm going to zoom in on that one once again, because I do want to look at the profile with some of our national radar composites. And yeah, still showing a pretty defined hook that's moving just around the Moments area. Conrad, is that Conrad, Indiana? There's the state line. So we're crossing the state line as we speak. And so Highway 41 up there towards Indiana, I know it's a long shot, but if you know of anyone that's up there towards western Indiana, please give them a call and let them know they need to get to their safe place, because that's definitely a strong tornado that's headed their way. I want to see, we should be able to put reports on there. Matt, if I click the wrong thing, feel free to intervene and help me with that. I don't know if I'll be able to pull it up on here. No, unfortunately not. But, okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, so going to that latest scan, we can kind of look at that report once again and go back on that one and see that report there towards Kankakee again, making sure I'm saying that right. And we'll go to that latest scan so that way we'll be able to look at that. So video shows tornado on the ground near the Kankakee Airport. I'm curious if I can get access to that, because usually that's public ground, so that should be accessible to us. So I'll start messaging between broadcasts, hopefully get that for you guys here in just a moment. But that's a confirmed report. And earlier on, we did have those power flashes closer to the Pontiac area. That's where we did get that confirmed report as well. Live webcam showing multiple brief funnel clouds over the north side of Pontiac during the 4:50 hour. So that was one of those funnel clouds, and even there on the north side of there, reporting some of that touchdown as well. Now, large hail was produced, and some of these hail reports are coming in just massive hailstones. 3 inches there. I'm curious if they've gotten 3.5. I wouldn't be shocked at all if there's a 4-inch hailstone mixed in there as well. Zooming things out, we can continue to see that we are on a very active pattern, in a very active pattern, and that is why the Storm Prediction Center has put out those risk areas, of course, highlighting specifically up there towards Illinois. And as we go on that latest scan, then I'm going to clear out those reports. You can see how the moderate risk area, where those tornado warnings are being highlighted the most as of right now. But we have gotten some of those tornado reports down there towards the Abilene, Texas area, where they have their own individual level 3 risk because of those potential strong storms. This one started just around that Mexico border, now starting to move east into the southern Texas area, basically west of Houston, and gradually working its way east as well. Now, we do expect, and I'm going to say this for North Mississippi, all of this activity to be away from us here in the Magnolia State. But by the time we get into that day 2 threat, you can see how it does extend more into the North Mississippi area, and not impossible to get some of those stronger tornadoes as that up to EF2 threat is in place for us here in the Magnolia State. So hopefully you guys are staying prepared. You guys are getting that those safety plans in place right now, because while this isn't our threat today, potentially some of these stronger tornadoes could develop in our area tomorrow. And by the time we're into tomorrow, you know, you can't pack your bags, you can't find that safe place. Once that warning is happening, you get that plan now, and then you won't have to worry about it in the moment. The only thing you have to worry about then is acting and going and staying safe.
Absolutely, kind of preparing ahead. Preparing make things a lot better off.
For sure.
Appreciate that, Gabe. I think we should wind things down. We're in the 7 o'clock hour now.
Oh boy.
All right. Yeah. Anyway, so hopefully we're not doing this long tomorrow. Probability we will have some of that kind of active weather coming up at 10 o'clock. Meteorologist Gabe Maynor, probably me alongside of him, talking about those severe threat for tomorrow and everything that you can expect related to this here in the Room to Room Weather Center. And don't forget Maggie. Maggie, our morning meteorologist, she is going to be on your television screen tomorrow morning starting at 6:37 and 7:30 a.m. here in the Room to Room Weather Center for the latest on what you can expect on the severe risk. We do expect to see an upgrade on risk level, maybe not necessarily on the intensity here, but continuing to refine the tornado locations, the most likely places to see that. Any upgrade related to that, Maggie will be here to help us out communicating that information. 6:37, 7:30 a.m. here in the Room to Room Weather Center on your Wednesday morning. Make sure you have Weather Call. Make sure you've downloaded the app. Make sure to tell your friends to do as much. We'll see you back here at 10 o'clock for Mississippi Live Weather.
Growing up, Gabe was naturally curious. When he began to discover weather, Gabe just didn't want to know what was happening, but he wanted to know why it was happening. Gabe became fascinated with tornadoes and it impacted his life. He wanted to pursue a career in meteorology. Even though Gabe grew up in Alabama, Mississippi has now become his home and his family. And one thing about Gabe is he keeps his family safe.